going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bet Show on the Mayo Media Network. Hockey is finally here. Chris Meaney, and I got a special guest in here today, Griffin Swanson at GriffDogg DFS. What's going on, my man?
Not a whole lot. I was like a kid on Christmas last night. Could barely sleep. A little too excited for today, but the day is here, ready to talk some hockey.
Yeah, dude, I didn't get any sleep at all. I'm super pumped about this show to talk hockey with you today. I love all the support that we've had over the past week or so with this show. Thank you so much. If you've subscribed, we appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button. Leave a comment in the YouTube section. Actually, Pat is just giving away $100. Like this is Pat is just. I love where Pat's at these days. He wants to do a hockey show. He's just giving away $100 if you rate, review 5 stars on Apple. Make sure you leave your Twitter handle, the email, so you can get into that draw for $100. And just continue to subscribe, share this show with your friends. We're going to be doing hockey 5 days a week. This Wednesday show will be some picks and some DFS plays. And Griffin, let's start 5 games on the ice early too. 5:30 Eastern is when lineup lock is for Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. We have Montreal and Toronto, Chicago, and the defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning, Vancouver, Edmonton, and St. Louis and Colorado to wrap it up at 10:30 Eastern time. So you and I we'll go through position by position. We'll give some picks and some bets towards the end of the show. We'll kind of recap through game by game and give some of our favorite plays again. So let's start up at the center position. We got Nate McKinnon at 8.5, Connor McDavid 8.4, Austin Matthews 8.2, and I'll group Draisaitl in there at 7.9. It does feel a little weird not to have Sidney Crosby grouped into that first tier. We could put him in there for sure, but Crosby and Malkin, mid-7, 7.4 for Crosby, 7.2. How do you treat the top of the board here at the center position?
Yeah, I think we look at those top 2 guys right away, McKinnon and McDavid, and I think they've kind of taken the reign from Sid at the center position, especially offensively at this point in their career. And 85 and 84, I think, is still reasonable enough to put these guys in your lineup. With McKinnon there, you can stack them up with a guy like Mikko Rantanen, even Andrei Burakovsky down at 4.8, and a lot of firepower on that first line there in Colorado. So I like that matchup against the St. Louis Blues. And then even McDavid there, he's got Zach Kassian on the right wing, so not quite as much firepower as that first line, in my opinion, out of Colorado, but still has Nugent Hopkins on the left wing there. So those two really started to click towards the end of last season. Nugent Hopkins was really putting up some points. So I look at those two right away, and they stick out to me. I mean, Matthews playing with Joe Thornton here now. There's some question marks there. So right away, those 2 guys at the top stick out to me and want to put those in many lineups as possible.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm looking for volume shooters, and if you're just new to fantasy hockey, I think that's a good way to look at it. None of these guys, I mean, you can make a case for all of them, obviously. I think I like Draisaitl a little bit more than McDavid, but you're right. I mean, what's your strategy like? Are you just picking 2 of one line? Are you trying to get some? You mentioned Thornton, right? Like Thornton is going to get some power play time. Other guys like Cassian, example, playing with McDavid, not going to get that PP time. So it's hard to kind of pair those 2 up. Like I would rather go McDavid and Nugent Hopkins, or maybe Yamamoto and Draisaitl and get Yamamoto on that top power play time.
Right.
I guess it just kind of maximizes your upside a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what you're shooting for too, is how much ice time are these guys playing together, not only shift after shift, but on special teams as well. And that's what you're kind of getting with McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, as you said, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, McKinnon, and Rantanen. But that first line in Toronto, it does look like they're all playing together. Matthews, Marner, and Thornton on that first power play. So there's definitely some interest there. Obviously, they've only had a few weeks here in training camp to develop a little bit of chemistry. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm targeting is, how much ice time are these guys really putting together? And is that include power play 1 and sometimes power play 2? So if I can get exposure to that, from any of these top guys, it definitely sticks out to me. They're obviously all very talented and can score multiple goals and put up multiple points on any given night. So definitely what I want to be targeting is that correlation and ice time together.
I will say this about Matthews. I was taking a look at him last night and I was thinking, man, I feel like this guy scores against the Habs quite often. And he has 12 goals, 17 points, 50 shots in 14 career games against the Habs. Like 50 shots in 12 games. That's crazy. and 17 points in 14 games rather. So that's wild. We got producer Matt Best. Can we get you on the horn here? Like, how long does Joe Thornton stick with Matthews and Marner? Like, can you keep up with these boys?
I'd be surprised if he lasts a full game, to be completely honest with you. And it's not because he's an older dude, but it's just because I think he'll get plenty of looks on the power play. It's just you need a bit more speed in order to compete in this new NHL. And I keep saying new NHL. It feels like the new NHL has been around forever. But this Thornton experiment might not last long. You might see old Zachy Hyman back up there eventually.
Yeah, we may. And Hyman is not cheap. He's priced like he is going to play with those guys. Can you rank these guys? McDavid, Matthews, Draisaitl, McKinnon? Griff?
Yeah. So for me, it would probably be McKinnon number 1. I'd probably go McDavid number 2 there. I'd probably go Draisaitl number 3, and then Matthews number 4. As Matt said there, it's probably an experiment with Thornton. I already saw that Thornton was centering it last week. Now they got Matthews in the middle. So they're already moving pieces there. And so, like I said, there's a few question marks for me to put Matthews in that tier 1, at least for game 1 here. We might see that change after, one game. But yeah, I'd probably go McKinnon, McDavid, and Draisaitl 1, 2, 3.
All the totals are at least 6. We'll get into picks towards the very end, but you and I were chatting with Matt before we came on here, and the Blues were 5.5, and they jumped up to 6. You and I were in agreement that was a little low. I like McKinnon too. He is my favorite. He's the most expensive, but I just feel like, he led the league in shots last year, 318, so he could put 5 or 6 pucks on net. It's a loaded top 6. You mentioned Burakovsky.
Really,
yeah, they bring in Brandon Saad, who is one of the better 5-on-5 players. So Devin Tays on the blue line too. So there's a lot to like about this Colorado team. And I wonder if St. Louis defensively will take a bit of a step back. I know they got Torrey Krug, but losing Pietrangelo, I think that's a big loss on the blue line. Like, he eats a lot of minutes against some top guys. So we could see that Colorado team just take it to the Blues tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Krug will come in and kind of replace that power play 1 role that Pietrangelo had. But as far as defensive play goes, Pietrangelo is one of the best in the league. And not that Krug is bad by any means, but there's definitely a significant difference there. So I think Krug will definitely put up points with this team. But you're absolutely right. That top 6 in Colorado right now just looks unreal. They'll be able to mix those guys up too. They got Landeskog on the second line right now with Kadri, and you could really put him on the top line with McKinnon there, put Burakovsky down on the second line. So there's a lot of moving parts, I think, with that top 6, but they're going to put up a lot of points this year.
Yeah, they really will. Okay, so moving down the board a little bit, mentioned Crosby and Malkin 7-4, 7-2 against the Flyers. Braden Point 7 against the Hawks. Pedersen 6-8. I like that price for him against the Oilers.
Really do.
And then Tavares and O'Reilly. What stands out to you there?
Yeah, so there's 2 plays. First and foremost, that Pedersen play right away. It does hurt that JT Miller is going to be out, but you still got Brock Besser there. So the chemistry between those 2 has been very real over the last 2 years here. And there's some shootout potential in this game between Vancouver and Edmonton. Got a new goalie in Vancouver there, Braden Holtby. He had a great career in Washington, but you never know. It's a new team and maybe gets a little bit of a shaky start. And we all know that Edmonton is not afraid to play that fast-paced, high-scoring game. So definitely some shootout potential there. Pedersen is the guy that sticks out to me right away. And then Gino, I don't mind Evgeny Malkin at that price either. I know Sid has kind of notoriously dominated the Flyers, playing with Gensel again, but they do have Evan Rodriguez on that right wing until Kapanen can kind of clear the COVID protocol or whatever it is after coming overseas. So I look at Gino here. He's playing with Brian Rust, who's coming off a career high 27 goals with Pittsburgh last year. I think if they finish the regular season, he hits 30. And now you got Jason Zucker on the left wing, who's got a little bit more time here to build some chemistry with these guys. This Pittsburgh team did not look good in the bubble. They didn't even look like they really wanted to be there. So hopefully a little time off gave these vets some extra time to get some juice and energy back, because Sid, Gino, and Letang, they're getting older, but I still think they got enough in the tank to make a run here. And I think Malkin, Rust, and Zucker are a good way to kind of tack tonight. And it's a low option stack as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, that would be the line that I would like to attack as well. I mean, Russ was phenomenal last season. I don't know if he can keep up that like goal scoring pace or the efficiency that he had shooting the puck, but playing with a guy like Malkin and then Zucker on the other side, you're going to fall into points that way. I also agree on the Vancouver Edmonton game. I am bummed about JT Miller. You mentioned it; he's not going to be able to suit up tonight due to COVID reasons. But I still think that's going to be a shootout, a high pace. The Oilers really didn't do anything to improve defensively. And we saw last year in the bubble, they went up against a Blackhawks team and it was just shootouts. There were just goals left, right, and center. So that's kind of how I feel like they'll play a lot of their games this year. And Holtby, new environment. I mean, the Canucks, they gave up a lot of just high danger chances, a lot of scoring chances too. So I think up and down, we're going to see a lot of points. So Pettersson's price at 6.8 really stands out to me. Are the Lightning going to be chalk here with Braden Point at 7, but no Kucherov? I was looking at Point over the last 2 years, Griff. 28 goals in the power play, and Nikita Kucherov assisted on almost half of them.
Oh, wow.
And 11 primary assists on those 28 goals. Now, the Lightning are still loaded. This matchup is the best. I mean, last year the Hawks allowed the most shots for at 5-on-5. High danger chances, scoring chances, goals. They're going to be starting this season without their captain and Jonathan Taves. They lost Corey Crawford, who retired but left for the Devils. Looks like they're starting Malcolm Subban in net tonight. They're super thin down the middle. The Lightning, I'm sure, going to be fired up because of the cup raising banner and all that stuff. I wonder that the Lightning, if they'll just be super chalk, that I'm trying to maybe potentially thinking about avoiding them. But Braden Point at 7K is interesting to me.
He definitely is. And there's really kind of two ways to look at it. Like you said, first and foremost, if you're just looking top to bottom at that roster for Chicago, they got a lot of missing important pieces. Like you said, Jonathan Taves there. If they were giving up that much defensively last year, now you lose your best defensive center. That's only going to hurt you more. And Kirby Dach, he probably would have took that next step this year here. So yeah, looking at that roster in Chicago, they're going to struggle out the gate. On the Tampa side, I look at it one of two ways. Yeah, you have, that cup. There's a lot of energy in the building. But I think that energy goes to both teams. A lot of times when you're looking at the opposite team, you're probably looking at the banner go up and thinking, okay, that's the goal this year. Let's go get that. Mm-hmm. So I think you could probably swing that energy a little bit both ways. And then there's always the chance of the cup hangover as well. As, you did just have such a successful run there over the, last stretch of months. Maybe you come out the gates a little bit slow here. Stamkos basically is replacing Kucherov on the right wing. I don't consider that much of a downgrade, but like you said, the chemistry between Point and Kucherov is very real, and the numbers show that. So yeah, I'm probably going to stay away from Tampa a little bit here tonight. By all means, they could blow up and score six goals in this game. So I'm prepared to take that loss if it does happen, but they should be very chalky. And if we can fade that and get an advantage, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't want to be eating chalk here on opening night. You see Tampa and they're heavy favorites, and then the matchup, I just feel like there's going to be a lot of goals scored there. Okay, we'll move on to a little bit deeper down the list. Horvat, 5'9", Couturier, 5'7", Kevin Hayes. So back-to-back Flyers there, 5'1". Kadri, Suzuki, Cirelli, Philip Deneau, Yanni Gourde, Brendan Sutter, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. We're really getting deep at the center position. Any Flyers here against the Penguins? Like, how do you feel like that game goes tonight, Pittsburgh and Philly?
Yeah, so the Battle of Pennsylvania really goes one of two ways. It's usually a shootout where it's 6-7 finish, or it's a really low scoring game. It's 2-1. They never really find that happy medium between the two. But I do foresee this one starting a little slow. Pittsburgh has some new pieces on their team, so there's probably going to be some time before they start to develop some chemistry, especially in that bottom six. And the Flyers team looks really, really deep this year, but it looks like they're also trying to spread the love out a little bit between those top nine. Looks like Voracek and forgetting the name here, but they're playing on the third line right now.
Nolan Patrick, potentially.
Yeah, and Van Riemsdyk. Yep. So those guys are all playing on the third line, and Voracek is a top six guy for sure. So it looks like they're trying to spread the love out a little bit in this lower range for centers here. Couturier does stand out a little bit. He's playing on that top line and top power play. Yeah, he's one of those playmakers though that also plays against the top center. So I do project him to face Sid tonight. and try to play that shutdown role a little bit. So maybe that opens things up for Kevin Hayes and even that second line in Pittsburgh. Maybe it's a battle between those two second lines there. I know Hayes is playing with Giroux right now, and so there's definitely some firepower there. But the guy that's actually kind of sticking out to me in this lower range is going to be Nazem Kadri. We already talked about how much firepower there is in this top six for the Avalanche, and $4,900 here is just too cheap, in my opinion, for a guy that also gets power play time with these guys as well. So $4,900 here, if you kind of want to pivot away from that top line in the Avalanche, which should also be pretty chalky, I think you can do that with that second line, which is Kadri centering Landeskog and Brandon Saad. So I do like that. But I do think that Pittsburgh game is a little too low scoring for me to attack those centers here.
Yeah, if the Flyers play like they played in the bubble, then it's going to be low scoring. I just felt like there's just the way that they played, and Vigneault and his system and his style. I don't want to say it's boring, but they definitely, man, they just played in a lot of just tight checking games. They didn't seem like they were able to really generate any offense. Before the pause, they were so good. I mean, I think they won 9 of 10, 16 of 22. The pause hurt them a little bit. Mm-hmm. I thought the Canadians kind of took it to them. And then the Islanders in the next series, it was tough for the Flyers to really generate any offense. So I'm with you there. Couturier is a guy that I really, really like. But in this matchup, he's going to be up against Sid. These two are very familiar with each other. They've had great battles. I would imagine Couturier probably is a guy that, flirts with 21, 22 minutes. It plays a lot of minutes tonight, and power play time and penalty kill, but it is tough to go up against Sid. Love the Kadri call. Love it at 4-9. I was going to come in here like a homer and talk Nick Suzuki up a little bit. I do like him slightly, but there's more upside with Nazem Kadri in this matchup. 4-9, I think he's underpriced. This is a former 30-goal scorer. He was in and out of the lineup a lot last year, hurt, but 28 goals and 26 assists. This guy had 54 points in 66 games. We just talked about the loaded offense and the additions that Colorado has. So I really, really like that call. That's it, right? Strome at 3-1 is somebody that I think in the future I'll be interested in, because we just talked about all the lack of depth in Chicago, and it looks like he's going to play with Kane, DeBrincat maybe right off the hop. I think that's interesting at 3-1. Maybe Robert Thomas at 3. Am I getting too cute here? This is a guy that's in the top 6 as well in St. Louis.
Yeah, he is playing on that second line, but again, I think it's, if there's a few question marks there, it does look like Mike Hoffman coming out of Florida and had to play on a tryout, which you definitely wouldn't have expected that of a guy who's a former 30-goal scorer, but he is playing on that top 6 right now, and it looks like Rob Thomas centering him. But yeah, I'm going to want to watch a game or two with those guys before I start firing them in my lineups. Sure. I do think Strome is interesting if you're looking for a low-priced center. He does make sense, being that he's centering Patrick Kane and DeBrincat there. Those guys are obviously still talented enough to put up points and score goals. So if I were to go with a low-priced option, it'd probably be Strome. But yeah, I'll probably stay in the 4 or 5K range if I'm looking for a low-price center.
So if you're playing multiple lineups, the one thing I will say about Thomas, he's going to play with Hoffman and Schwartz, and you're right, Hoffman is an absolute stud. He's a sniper. Thomas is not going to get that power play time with those big boys. Hoffman's going to play the quarterback power play role with Krug, and then he's going to play with those big boys. So Thomas is on that second power play unit with Vince Dunn and Bozak. It's a little less appealing, but I do think he's a guy that I know that he's a guy that I'm going to be interested as a value play. Maybe later on down the road, but I probably will have, if I'm putting 15 lineups, I'm probably going to do one with him and Hoffman just to see what that connection's like early on in the season. Cause Hoffman is not afraid to shoot the puck, and he's definitely not, he could have 7 or 8 shots in this game alone in his debut.
Absolutely. And that's, when you're trying to make a debut with a team, there's always that, hey, I want to make an impression and start off on the right foot. So that you very well, and we have already talked about how there's a little bit of shootout potential. And we thought that the 5.5 was too low between this game and the Blues and the Avalanche. So yeah, it's like I said, if you're looking for a low priced option, it's intriguing, but I definitely don't think we need to get too crazy on opening night.
All right. Over to the winger position. We got Stamkos up at the top, 7-4, Kane 7-1, Rantanen 7, Ryan Nugent Hopkins 6-9, Mitch Marner 6-8, and Jake Gensel 6-5. what do you think here? You just continue with Colorado and Edmonton, Rantanen and Nugent Hopkins. Those are the two that really stand out to me.
Yeah, those are the first two popping out to me here as well. Obviously, Stammer and Kane, plenty of talented, can put up points, but I'm looking at the Rantanen and Nugent Hopkins here as well. Already developed chemistry with the centers that they got. And we talked about how much, or at least I talked about how much I like McDavid and McKinnon here tonight. So you can stack them up. They play on the same power play together, plenty of minutes, plenty of chemistry there between those four. Absolutely love those two at the top.
Yeah, it's Canucks again, like the Hawks. Just taking a look at last year's 5-on-5 numbers. I mean, Vancouver is right there and just allowing scoring chances, high danger scoring chances, shots for at 5-on-5, and that's something I want to keep an eye on. 5-on-5 numbers throughout the season, and trends are gonna happen. We'll keep an eye on all that stuff as we get going here. But the power play too, on top of it, is just so lethal in Edmonton. Right. So it's hard to get away from Rantanen and Nugent Hopkins. Down the list, Perron, Gallagher, Nylander, Landeskog. Are we just, this is a trend that we're continuing here? Colorado. Just there's too much offense, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of offense to love here. Actually, I don't mind William Nylander there at 6,200. This is a guy who he's coming off a season where he had 33 goals and 30 assists and looked like a completely different player last year. Obviously, the year before that, he decided to hold out a little bit, really struggled to get going. The kid has the number change, grows out his hair, and just looks like a completely different player last year. And him and Jonathan Tavares definitely have a little bit of chemistry there. So if you kind of want to give it away from that first line of Marner, Matthews, and Joe Thornton, like I said, there's some question marks there for me. So I don't mind William Nylander here. If, coming off a 30-goal season in a shortened season for that matter, I'm really okay with that here. And guy that sticks out to me, it's more of an individual play. I'm not looking to stack them up, but just, hey, a one-off player that has some potential to bury a couple goals tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. He did seem a little different last year, didn't he? I don't know if it was he joined the 88 club or not, but he did seem a little different. Sniper. And Philip Deneau is a nice, solid, underrated shutdown center. So if he's going to have his hands full with Austin Matthews, and Claude Julien's going to line match, it's just what he does. Is he's every time Matthews touches the ice, he's going to try to get Deneau and Gallagher and Tatar on there, and then there's pretty much a mismatch with Tavares and Nylander up against Suzuki and Drouin for sure. I mean, Josh Anderson will add a little bit of firepower to that line, but defensively, not the best, that trio. So Nylander and Tavares, would you match them up with Tavares? Would you go the 1-2, or just maybe a one-off, like you said, is just straight Nylander?
Yeah, I definitely think you can put Tavares in there. I'm not suggesting that you have to shy away from it, but if you want to play kind of a one-off, I think Nylander is a guy that kind of offers that upside to score goals, whether it be on the power play or whether he's just playing with Tavares. He can kind of score from many different angles, and he gets a lot of opportunity on that second line. So yeah, you definitely can go there, but as a one-off play, I'm completely okay with that as well.
Real quick, fellas, what do you think of Jimmy Vesey? Because he's on that line as well. $3,000 for Jimmy Vesey. Not getting any power play time, but maybe that secondary assist puts you over the hump in a GPP.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, I mean, there's guys in that 3K. There's actually a few, Matt, that I like in that 3K. I mean, Vesey, Anderson I mentioned, and Farabee. I mean, all three of those guys at 3K. But my one problem is like, well, I just spend $200 more for Hoffman. Like, why is Mike Hoffman 3-2? I understand the player tryout, but a lot of people in hockey knew that it was just because Tarasenko, once he was being able to place on long-term IR, free up the money and play him. 3-2 is crazy. But Matt, I do like the VC call. Maybe he will get some power play time. Who knows? I mean, it's not slated to, but Griff, he certainly can. And playing in a top 6 at 3K with those lethal forwards that he's going to play with in Tavares and Nylander is pretty hard to ignore.
Yeah, and you're hitting the nail on the head right there too as well. I mean, even if he does end up playing 12, 14 minutes tonight, those are valuable minutes playing with John Tavares and William Nylander. So if he's out there with those guys on a consistent basis, there's always going to be opportunity. Again, he's one of those new guys coming in, and I'm sure there's something that he wants to prove. Things didn't go great in New York for him, and then he ends up in Buffalo. Obviously now he's at a new team here. So he's been bounced around a little bit in his early career. I'm sure he wants to stick somewhere at some point. And so, yeah, there's always that upside there of just playing with those top guys. But like you said, at $3,200, Mike Hoffman, it's hard to ignore that when he's sitting right there. But sometimes that's what it comes down to in terms of roster construction. Sometimes you need that extra $100 or $200, and maybe you pivot down to a guy like VC.
Matt, my problem is there's too many guys I like at 3K. I mean, even 2.9. We got Rodriguez, who you touched on, playing with Sid tonight. Now, I'm not totally interested in him, but Höglander, Vancouver's first round pick, 2.9. He's going to get an opportunity, especially with Miller out. Like, he's going to play with Bo Horvat. Yesterday I saw reports of him getting some top power play time. We love that game. Dominic Cahoon, this guy is slated to play with Draisaitl and Yamamoto. Like, there is a ton of value and upside in this range. I think we should probably rank these guys. Like, how do you feel about this? Let's leave Hoffman out. I think we like him the most. Okay. After Hoffman, let's try to rank these guys.
Yeah, so the one guy that does stick out to me below Hoffman right away is that Niles Höglander, and I might be pronouncing that wrong, but I was watching Bo Horvat come out with an interview just the other day, and he was just ecstatic at how well this guy was playing in practice. Very, very talented. Now, obviously, hits his NHL debut tonight, so I'm sure he's going to be a little shaky to start things off. But when you're playing with a guy like Bo Horvat and you got Tanner Pearson on the left wing, who looked good in Vancouver once he went there, I really like that play there. You know, again, he might only play about 10, 12, 14 minutes here tonight, but at this price, if he can bury a goal, he's going to meet his value right away. So I love that call. I think Höglander is probably the guy that I'll be targeting down there. And then after that, you mentioned Rodriguez, probably another guy that I don't have any issue putting in my lineup. He's not going to play on that top power play with Sid, not going to play with Gensel on that top power play, but playing with those two in general is enough for me to put him in the lineup. So I like those as probably my top two, and then Dominic Cahoon is probably number 3 for me there. He already developed a little bit of chemistry with Draisaitl towards the end of last season, and I really don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I think he's my favorite, to be honest with you. I'm going to fade McDavid today for the most part. I know it's super scary, but I'm going to go with Draisaitl, and I really like Yamamoto. I mean, we jumped down into the value, but up a little bit more. I mean, he's only 3.9. There's no one really in this 5K range that I like. Schwartz, Rust, I don't mind. Drew, I'm not going to get there. Hyman is a complete fade for me. Tatar, I think is interesting. Toffoli 5-1. He's on the third line. He's getting top power play time. I'm not totally interested in that. Voracek, I get the call, but not a big shot volume guy. So I'm just going to fade away from there. Do you like anyone in this range?
Not in that 5K range. Directly below that, Burakovsky sticks out to me playing on that top line with McKinnon. But no, in that 5K range, there's nothing that's eye-popping by any means. Again, you know, all these guys do play some of those top minutes and play usually within that top 6. But I think we can pivot in the 4K range or just directly above in the mid 6K range and find some better value plays there.
Yeah, so I'm going to rank them. I think Cahoon, Höglander, you got me messed up if I'm messing that name up now too, but 2. And then I like Josh Anderson. I really do. I think you can forget about last season. You look back at his last full year in Columbus. He was like, I know you don't get points for hits and stuff like that on DK. But he was one of 3 players who had over 20 goals, 200 shots, 200 hits with Ovechkin and Blake Coleman. He is a rare power forward you don't see in the game today. He's going to get some power play time. This is going to be his debut against the Leafs. I'm buying into all the narratives here, man. I think that he is going to put a few pucks on net. He's going to get some power play time with the big boys. And I like that price. He's just mispriced. He's a guy that is priced like we didn't see him at all last year. We saw him a little bit. And he wasn't good in the sample that he played. And then he's coming off-season shoulder surgery. So I think he's mispriced at 3. But VC's in there too, man. I got to put him in the top 4. There is a lot of value at winger here.
Even down here, I caught my eye. Oscar Lindblom at $2,700. He's playing on that first line. You know, obviously a great story with this kid over the last year, beat cancer, coming back, and it's kind of a cool, fun way to just root for this player in general. But
Absolutely.
he is playing on that first line right now as well with Couturier, and so there's definitely some interest there. Like you said, there's just so much value below the 4K range here on Wednesday night. That's why I think it's going to allow us to pay up for some of these really high priced guys, and then kind of have some value here below 4K.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Pedersen and Hoglander or anything like that, Horvat, that's going to open up so much for your roster. Draisaitl, Cahoon, I like that combo as well. Anything else here from the winger position? I mean, I mentioned Farabee, but I think Lindblom is a much better play, and you're going to save yourself a little bit of cash there. Hoffman, we love. Sanford, Donskoy, Virtanen. These guys are playing in the top 6, but I don't totally have a lot of interest. Are you going to play any Joe Thornton at all? I feel his ownership is going to be way too high.
Agreed. Yeah, agree. And look, I think, it's going to be fun watching those guys here tonight just to see how they do play. But yeah, there's probably still too many question marks there for me. It's not like Joey T's coming off a year where he lit it up. And so obviously he's got a couple of guys that have, and they can put up major points. But no, I'll probably stay away from that, considering it probably will be a chalky play. And I just have too many question marks at this time.
Fair enough. All right, defense. What are we doing here? Victor Hedman, 6'2", Letang, 6'1", Cale Makar up at 6, Shea Weber, 5'9". Edler is 5'8", Quinn Hughes is 5'1". I get that Edler blocks a lot of shots, but I thought that was interesting. And then Morgan Riley is 5'6". What do you think up at the top of the board here? You spend it up?
Yeah, I think, again, having the value at winger tonight allows us to pay up at defense. And that's honestly not something that I typically target. I mean, if there's someone who's mispriced at defense, yeah, I'll jam them in my lineup. But sometimes I try to just jam in the high price forwards because they offer a little more upside, a little more of a ceiling score. So that's typically the route I go. But considering there is so much value at forward here tonight, Victor Hedman, I mean, Conn Smythe winner, he lit up the bubble. Probably the best I've ever watched a defenseman play hockey before, especially on the offensive side of the puck. It was really fun to watch this guy play, and playing a depleted Chicago team tonight. If there's one guy that I can expect to play 25 minutes here and expect the best out of him, it's going to be Victor Hedman. So he sticks out to me right away. Letang has always got that offensive upside playing with Gino and Sid on the power play, but Cale Makar, up and coming defenseman, probably going to win best defenseman here over the next handful of years. He should have a Norris Trophy on his shelf at some point, and just so much offensive firepower there. So him and Hedman are the two guys that stick out to me above 6K, and really in that top 5K range too. I'll probably just try and jam those two guys in.
Yeah, those are my guys too. I agree with you. I mean, Hedman was an absolute force. A few years ago when the Hawks won the Cup, Patrick Kane had said after, he said Hedman is the best player I've ever played against, ever. Like his reach and his sense, and he's really just come into his own over the past couple of seasons as arguably the best defenseman in the league. I mean, he could play 25, 26 minutes in this game, even if they just have their way with the Hawks. And if they do, he's probably getting his. So I like that call. Cale Makar, when Eric Young and I were doing the previews on Monday, I mean, he was my Norris guy, 12-1 to win the Norris. I think you said exactly what I had said. Like, he's got a couple of these in his future. It could start as early as this year at 6K. Down the list, Riley is kind of interesting. Nurse, this whole range to me is a bit of a fade, like Schmidt, Edler. If I'm going to play a Canuck, I'm going to play Hughes at 5-1.
Agreed.
Why am I playing Schmidt and Edler a little bit more expensive? Are you in agreement?
100%. Yeah. And I think Schmidt's going to play well up in Vancouver. Edler, like you said, blocks a lot of shots night in and night out, kind of the leader on that blue line there. But Quinn Hughes is the guy when it comes to offensive production, and I expect that to continue right away. He looked great in the bubble. He's the real deal here. $5,100 in my opinion is too cheap considering the upside that this guy does have. I think he should be in the upper 5K range. So if we can get him at a bit of a discount, in my opinion, definitely want to lock him into my lineups here too. Obviously, we can only put two defensemen in our lineups, but I think really between Makar, Hedman, and Hughes, you can't go wrong with those three.
Yo, Matt, can you tell me why Brody's 4.8 and Tyson Barrie's 4.4?
Oh, you're making me go against Tyson, or making me go against Brody here. I don't like you doing this to me on the show already. I love your Barrie pick from the preview show as well. I think he's going to have a great year in Edmonton. The whole TJ Brody thing kind of confuses me at this price. I think we'll see him priced in the upper or the lower fives as the season continues. He's not a guy that I want to target today for some reason. There's a lot of other plays that I do like, especially in cash games. Give me those sure bets like Quinn Hughes, and like you guys are talking about, we're saving money at wing, so I want to spend up. And like Griff said, not a strategy I enjoy, but I think for opening nights, it's a strategy that a lot of people are going to employ.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I usually try to find value at this position and spend down as well. But with all those wingers being 3K, and it allows you to spend up for some guys who are going to get top power play minutes, who are going to probably lead their team in ice time, and Hedman and, Letang or Makar. These guys are going to get a lot of minutes tonight. So yeah, it was kind of tongue in cheek. I was just looking at this slate a couple of days ago. And I was like, but I did see practice reports that Brody was getting some time in the top power play unit. He is going to get power play time. It looks like Riley's going to be on that first unit and Brody's going to be on that second unit. But that just really stood out to me. Barrie, I feel like, is going to be complete chalk. He may be the chalkiest play on the entire slate, Griff. Maybe I'm wrong to think that, but 4-4, I just look at last year and I forget it. I throw it out the window. It just didn't work out. I mean, Morgan Riley, he regressed, Barrie regressed. They cut into each other. If you want to look at what Barrie could do this season, go look at his 2 prior years in Colorado when he was flirting with 60 points and he was getting 4 minutes per game on the power play. His ice time on the power play was basically cut in half last year. Now he joins a loaded Edmonton team. They're thin on the blue line. Oscar Klefbom is not on this team right now. And Barrie, I feel like, he's going to be a guy that's contributing on the number one power play. Is the number one power play in the league. They were so efficient last year. It's hard to ignore 4-4. Will you eat the chalk?
Yeah, I don't mind it. If Mike Hoffman isn't the chalkiest player, it's probably going to be Tyson.
Sure, you're right, Hoffman.
At this price tag here, like you said, there's just so much potential and so much opportunity when you're playing on that top power play with McDavid and Draisaitl. So I'm okay with it. I will eat the chalk. I'm not afraid to play a couple chalky players in my lineup by any means, and then try and get contrarian elsewhere. And so, yeah, I don't mind that play whatsoever. Obviously, playing his first game in Edmonton here, so there's always that question mark. But he's, like you said, too talented. This is a guy who lit it up with Colorado, and now he's coming into a very similar type structure here with McDavid and Draisaitl. Guys that can bury the puck and like to play that fast-paced, high-scoring game. So love that call there. $4,400, like you said, probably too cheap for a guy playing with that much firepower.
Is there anybody else that you're interested in? Devin Taves is interesting at 4-6. He's going to be paired up with Makar. He's not going to get the top power play time, but it looks like he's going to be on the second unit. I mean, Ryan Graves had a phenomenal season last year, getting no power play time and just kind of, piggybacking off of Makar. Like anytime there was some 5-on-5 points and he was in on all of it. Now Taves takes his spot, puck moving defenseman, smooth skater. Kind of interested in him at 4-6, but Barrie again stands at 4-4. Like if you want to pivot, I think I could pivot in that price range to maybe a Taves or a Petrie. Petrie getting some top power play time with the Canadians. But is there anyone else that you like?
I've been looking below 4K here, and I've been trying to find someone that sticks out to me, but I'm struggling to do that because, like you said, I mean, at 4-4, Barrie offers that value. We don't need to get too crazy when we have so many forwards that are low-priced options here today. So, no, I might just lock in the defenseman and say, hey, between Hedman, Makar, Quinn Hughes, and Tyson Barrie, you guys are the 4 that I'm going to rotate throughout my lineups here, and then I'll try and mix up the forwards. But there's nobody really that's eye-popping to me below that 4K range here right now. Sam Girard obviously plays on that second power play for the Colorado Avalanche, and he's talented enough to where he can score goals and put up points. But in the same breath, I don't think we need to do that. I'll pay the extra $1,000 for Tyson Barrie, who's playing on that first power play in Edmonton.
Yeah, you're right. Normally, like on a big slate and there wasn't so much value, I'd say maybe Ethan Bear at 3-3 on the second unit. I think Romanoff, and Matt's going to roll his eyes, but I think Romanoff is a guy that we're going to talk about this year. I think he's going to get some power play time. He's 2.5. He's a highly touted prospect, one of the better defensive prospects in the game. 2.5. looks like he's going to be on the second unit, but again, no real need to get that cute. There's too much value at the winger position to be spending down like that at defense, but he is a guy that I wanted to throw out there for people who are playing a lot of lineups tonight. Okay, what are we doing at goalie? Vasilevsky, McElhinney, 8-4, 8-2, Grubauer, 8-2. We got Anderson, 8-1. Campbell's not going to start. Vasilevsky's going to start. We had nothing really official here. Grubauer, that is the most official news that we have. I think that was announced a couple of days ago. Are you spending all the way up for some of these guys?
Vasilevsky is the goalie that I probably, if I can afford it, just jam him in there. He's the safest bet, in my opinion, here tonight. Tampa Bay currently has the best odds right now to win. I think they were minus 235 last time that I checked, but pretty substantial margin between them and the next favorite. So I like Vasilevsky here. I did mention the Cup hangover potential here with this Tampa Bay Lightning team, but I do think they're too talented top to bottom. We don't have Kucherov tonight, but we're basically just swapping him with Steven Stamkos. So if you consider it a downgrade, it's probably not that much of a downgrade. And so I like Vasilevsky here. And we already talked about how the Chicago team looks like they're probably going to struggle out the gate. So He is very expensive, but if I can afford it, I'll probably just pay Vasilevsky.
Yeah, and just hoping you get the W, right? I mean, he may only face 20 shots, but he's probably going to get the W. Yeah. All right. I like that. Pittsburgh and Philly. Can you take a side between any goalie on here with Jarry or Hart?
It's tough for me, but I do lean towards Carter Hart here. I just think top to bottom that Philadelphia Flyers lineup is better. Like I said, it looks like they're trying to spread the love out through their top three lines, and they can do that with the forwards that they have there. So I am giving the edge to Philadelphia tonight. Like I said, I do expect this to be a low-scoring game right out the gate. And Carter Hart has got a lot to prove this year. And if Philly found their goalie, I think this team can be good for the next handful of years here. They have some youth on that team that has some upside. So, yes, I do give the edge to Carter Hart and the Philadelphia Flyers here. I think Pittsburgh has too many moving pieces, brought in some new pieces as well, and they're going to need some games here before they really start to gel. So I will give the edge to the Flyers and Carter Hart.
Yeah, I would agree. He's probably one of my favorite guys tonight. I like the price at 7-8. It's decent. I just feel like that game is going to be low scoring. I think you're spot on with that analysis that there's not going to be a lot of goals there. If you can get to Vasilevsky, sure. Edmonton and Vancouver, I have no interest in Holtby, and I don't really have any interest in Koskinen either. I just feel like it's gonna be too high scoring. I just don't want any goalie from there. And Colorado, St. Louis, I kind of feel the same. Like I could see myself maybe going to Binnington or Carey Price to kind of get some leverage and get away from what I think will be chalk, what I think will be Colorado. Like, yes, we both talked at length about how much we like the Avs. We were putting multiple lineups in, and maybe just if you're going to fade Colorado, I think Binnington maybe makes some sense as a guy who could see 35, 40 shots. Mm-hmm. If he can get the W and it is low scoring, I do feel like it will be high scoring, but that's like my contrarian. Those are my two contrarian goalies, like Binnington and Price. And what I talked about with the Habs in the opening show here was just their 5-on-5 play. If Toronto gets 5 or 6 power plays, they're scoring 4 or 5 goals, maybe every single time that they get on the power play. But last year at 5-on-5, the Canadians were one of the better teams in the league. I mean, some of the numbers are all top 10 in high danger chances allowed. And Price is one of those guys who we saw in the bubble at 7-6, and his play in the bubble, nobody thought that he was going to be able to play like that. Maybe apart from a couple Penguins, like some rumors of Crystal Tang, like I don't want the Canadians in the bubble. Like, are you kidding me? They got Price. You could take away, a game or two, steal a game. I think at this price, I don't feel like anyone's going to play him. Like, who is the goalie on this list here that you think will be the lowest owned out of all these guys?
Oh, the lowest owned, I think Binnington is probably
Binnington, and then maybe Price.
Yeah, and I love that call with Carey Price there. I mean, he definitely caught me off guard in the bubble last year. I thought that Pittsburgh would have went in and probably handled their business in 4 games, and it was the completely opposite of that. We saw Carey Price come in, and he stood on his head. I mean, he was kind of the reason that that team really started to come together. Game 1 and game 2, he looked lights out, and then you started to see those young guys start to rally around that a little bit in the bubble, and that was fun to watch. But but this guy still has it. He's still elite, still one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. I don't think that's up for debate right now. So yeah, love Carey Price, especially considering that those top two lines there in Toronto have new guys on there. So Joe Thornton, Jimmy Vesey, maybe they, struggle to come out the gate a little bit, and Carey Price gets hot in the first period and rolls that out through the second and third. So I love that call there at 76.
Yeah, I'm into him, man. Tonight, I just feel like at that price, 7.6, and his upside, and the fact that I do feel like he will be a little low owned. If you're playing cash, and if you have the money, I do agree with you. I think Vasilevsky, if you can get there at 8.4, is interesting. And I will say on the other side, as much as I like Price, like Anderson too. I know the Habs last year were 3-0 against the Leafs, but Anderson didn't play in those games. Like there was one I was at Scotiabank Place, and it was Hutchinson in net, and he was awful. He was brutal. The Leafs should have won that game. But as much as I talk up the Habs, and I'm looking number 1 in shots for, number 4 in scoring chances for, number 3 in high danger chances for, this is a team that they control the play at 5-5. They generate a lot of chances, but they don't have a lot of snipers on their team. Like when you watch them, they're like, okay, wow, they're generating a ton of shots. Like that series against the Flyers, they generated a ton of shots, but they're just hitting hard in the logo. So Anderson is a guy tonight that I feel like if there's minimal power play time, I could see the Canadians actually having the edge 5-5, generating a ton of shots, but Anderson just looking really good, and a guy who could end up on this slate with 40 saves. Like I've watched the Canadians, Griff, so many times get 40 shots and make a goalie look real good and real nice. So both of those guys, I want a piece of both of them. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this game tonight was a little low scoring, kind of like Pittsburgh and Philly. I think the way that the Canadians played in the bubble, the way that they want to play, tight checking, try to eliminate those chances from Toronto, because a lot of those games against the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Flyers were really low scoring and tight. So I think Vancouver, Edmonton goals. I think Chicago and Tampa, maybe not on the Blackhawks side, but Tampa goals. And then as much as I'm saying Binnington is an underrated play, Colorado and St. Louis probably going to see that surpass the 6-goal mark as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree. I think that's a sound analysis there. You can definitely attack both sides of that game. With the price savings you do get from Anderson to Price, that's probably the way that I would lean. But, if you are playing multiple lineups, that's the beauty of goaltender on a 5-game slate, is you can get exposure maybe to a little bit of all of them, especially that have that upside in a low scoring game. So love the call on that. Not afraid to go either way.
Anything you want to say before we get to some picks? Like you want to recap some of your strong plays, your core, or anything like that?
No, just one thing I would suggest out there is making sure, like you said, that you are making sure that your lineup does correlate. Obviously, there are some one-off picks every now and then that you want to make, like William Nylander that I mentioned. Maybe
Sure.
You just slap him in and say, hey, this is going to be a 2-1 game, 3-1 game, and William Nylander gets 2 of those goals and an assist. So definitely want to have those one-off contrarian plays, but also make sure that, it makes sense that you're correlating your lineup here. We talked about how McDavid and Nugent Hopkins make sense, or even that second line in Pittsburgh with Malkin, Zucker, and Russ. So want to have ice time with your players, but no, outside of that, just really looking forward to the slate here tonight. A lot of value plays, so I think we're going to see some good lineups.
Yeah, my favorite, as we get to some picks, I know it's a high total, but my favorite game is Vancouver-Edmonton. I want to just try to mix and match those top 2 lines in Edmonton. I'm on the Draisaitl one, as I mentioned, Draisaitl, Yamamoto. I like the fact that Yamamoto is getting that top power play time. I think he had like 26 points in 27 games. Like he's not going to keep that up. He had like a 25% shooting rate. He's not going to keep that up. But dude, Matt Best, if he played with Draisaitl, he might have 50 goals.
I get 2 goals. It'd be great.
I mean, Draisaitl's that good. Right? He's number 2 in the NHL in goals scored over the last 2 years behind Ovechkin, just like 6 behind him. So he's that good. All right, let's wrap up with some picks. Let's roll through these. You may have a feel of what we're feeling as, we talked through these position by position guys, but Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, this is like almost a pick 'em now, but the total is 6. Where do you lean?
Yeah, I do lean towards the under. We talked about throughout the video here that it could be a low scoring game right out the gates. And that's usually the way that these games go. I mentioned this earlier. It's either a 6-7 game or a 2-1 game. I'm leaning towards the latter, where I do think this game starts slow. Pittsburgh has basically a new bottom six, some of the same pieces, but they're going to want to play sound defensively. So I think they come out the gates here pretty slow. Not a whole lot of goals scored in this game. So my favorite play on that would be taking the under at 6.
All right. I would agree under. I think the Flyers win. Give me Philly and the under. I really like this Flyers team. I think that they're very sound. I think you said it perfectly when you're comparing them and the Penguins. I think they're more sound defensively. They got 3 lines. They're strong in net. I don't think what they did last year, I didn't think it was a fluke.
No.
Not at all. All right. Montreal and Toronto. We got the Habs plus 118, the Leafs minus 137. We got this nice, sexy looking board from our guy Matt here. Look at the ice in the back. Oh man, Scotia Bank Arena.
Don't
What
worry,
do you think here?
when the Habs are home, I'll put old Bell Center.
Can't wait to see the Bell Center and all those Stanley Cup banners up at the top. What are you doing here, Griff? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll probably take the under here as well. At 6.5, especially if it were 6, I'd probably have to think about that one a little bit more. But I do expect this one to start a little bit slow here as well. Like we said, both goaltenders could really get hot in this game here. And 6.5 opening night, it looks like a lot of the money in the bets are coming in on the under. So I'm okay with taking that there. I think this one's probably kind of a pick 'em here as well, but I will give the slight edge just based off the roster to Toronto. But I'm by no means in love with that.
Yeah, I like the under too. I think 6.5 is a little high. I like both goalies. I think they're strong. Anderson has had a lot of success against Canadian teams over the course of his career, so it's good for Leaf fans to be playing all Canadian teams this year. Again, everyone who knows me, you're gonna laugh at this, but I do feel like if you're picking an underdog pick tonight, I mean, it's probably that for me. Like if you're looking for a dog, it's probably the Habs, but the under is a strong play. I think we'll see maybe a 3-2 hockey game. An empty net goal would get us under the number if it was 3-2. We don't want to see more than 6.
Nope.
Chicago, Tampa. I mean, what are you going to do here? I mean, heavy favorites, Lightning. This is a stay away from me. If you want to go on the puck line, maybe minus 1.5, you get plus 106 there. Any interest in that?
That would be the only bet that I hit here is the puck line. Assuming Tampa comes out and handles business like we saw them do in the bubble. But yeah, I'm going to probably stay away from this one. Just a little bit too much uncertainty. I've mentioned a few times now throughout the video that there could be a bit of a cup hangover. I've seen it with teams in the past start a little bit slow, and I don't expect this Chicago team to put up a bunch of goals here tonight, nor do I foresee that here in the near future. So I'll probably just stay away from this, but if I were to hit one, it would probably be the puck line on the Lightning side.
Yeah, I agree. I think I will go that route. Yeah, I just don't really like this Hawks team. I think they'll struggle all year. Vancouver, Edmonton, I like the over here. It's probably my favorite play on the entire board. 6? Are you kidding me? Give it to me. Yep. We might get there halfway through the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Too much firepower in that top 6 on both teams. Definitely have defensemen that can put the puck in the net as well. I think this one could be a pick 'em as well. Vancouver looked really good in the bubble, and they have a lot of pieces here that is promising for the future. Obviously, we're missing JT Miller here tonight, but I don't think that's make or break for this Canucks team. So I'll take the over here as well, but I do think it's more of a pick 'em. I think either team could end up with a W here.
And then St. Louis and Colorado, the Avs Stanley Cup favorites, plus 650. It all starts tonight. Minus 148, Colorado, St. Louis, plus 125. The total at 6, as we mentioned earlier in the show. And before we came on, 5.5, it has jumped up. I think I like the over there.
Yeah, I agree. Especially we get it at plus 102 here now. So I'll still take the over at 6 goals. Like you said, this could be one of those where halfway through the second period and they've already hit that. Jordan Binnington really kind of struggled last year after winning the Stanley Cup. And there's some question marks there. I think Nathan McKinnon, that top line, come out on fire and on all cylinders. And then that second line, yeah, they got Brandon Saad that's new to there, but I don't think those guys will miss a beat either. So I'll take the over here. And then I actually like the Avs money line here. Now it's minus 148, but I do think they win this game outright.
Yeah, I like the Avs money line too. I think that they win as well. Matt, you got a favorite pick on the board tonight? Don't tell me it's the Leafs.
You got to give me the over in the goals, just like you said, for Vancouver Edmonton. That's my favorite there. And I know I'm not supposed to agree with you for anything Habs Leafs, but if you're looking at an upset tonight, don't be cheeky and play the Blackhawks. Play the Habs.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, there is some success for Montreal. 4 straight wins against Toronto. They've done well against Canadian teams. I think these teams are pretty close. I mean, the firepower is there for Toronto. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that Montreal has more firepower than Toronto. I mean, if you're going to pick 5 of the best players in this game, I mean, 4 of them are going to be from Toronto. It's just the way it is. They have a lot of offense there, but I think they have some new pieces, as Matt mentioned on the preview show as well. It may take some time for some of these guys to gel. The blue line is a little bit different. Griff, you mentioned, Thornton and Simmons and some of these other new players that are on that team. So I should do a Tim Anderson free money on the way out as jokes.
Oh boy. I think you should. I'll keep track of it too for you.
Okay. Give me the Habs and the under. I want the Canucks, Oilers over, and then Colorado. Those are the ones right there. That's the 4. Giddy up.
I like it.
Any final words, bud?
No, appreciate you guys having me on here today. I can talk hockey all day, every day. So
I like it.
A lot of fun here. I really enjoyed this. Looking forward to tonight. Kicking it off, puck drop, opening 2021 NHL season. How can you not be excited for today?
It was great to talk to you, man. Big fan of your work at GriffDogg DFS. Give him a follow. Make sure you subscribe to the show. As Pat says, smash that like button. Make sure you get your email into if you want in that draw for $100. Rate, review on Apple, 5 stars. We appreciate you. Enjoy the hockey. You can always reach out at Chris Meaney. Matt, thanks so much as always. Boards were awesome. Let's have some fun. Watch the hockey, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.